Hola muchachos, ¿qué tal? Buenos días, aquí tienen el horario para hoy, viernes el 7 de abril. No homework was due for today, just to continue to work on your autobiographical presentation, which is due next week. Here are video instructions to complete this assignment, a soft copy, word copy of the grading rubric, project description. You have a few examples here that you can utilize from years past. Keep in mind that you need to include at least 2 to 3 photos, drawings, or images that are authentic. So no Google images, no clip art. It needs to be an autobiographical presentation about you. So please use authentic images. So you're going to have about 10. If you have a little bit less, that's fine, but should have at least a couple for as many of the questions as possible. And then remember, in addition to the visual component, whether you make a poster, PowerPoint, Google slide, video, etc., you need to include a narration, an oral component, which can be done as an audio or video file. So you're going to have 2 components to this assignment. You're going to have the visual component and then the oral component. And make sure to include both in your submission that's due next Monday or Tuesday for those of you that are in our B-Day classes. Daily objectives for today: share what we used to be like when we were younger, using the key vocabulary that we've been looking at to talk about what you were like when you were little, what you used to like to do, what your favorite hobbies were, favorite subject, etc. And we're going to learn the imperfect tense today and begin to utilize that to express habitual actions in the past to describe our childhood. Our warm-up for today are the 3rd and 4th questions for your project. De niño, ¿qué era tu materia favorita en la primaria y por qué? As a child, what was or what used to be your favorite subject in elementary school and why? You're going to begin your response by saying, de niño, mi materia favorita en la primaria era. And then you're going to replace la historia with your favorite subject. You can find those on page 14. You're going to indicate a verb that you would associate with that subject. And then you're going to use an adjective to describe that subject. All that vocabulary you can find on page 14 and also page 42 for the verbs. De pequeño, ¿en qué participabas después de la escuela? When you were little, what did you used to participate in? This should be participabas, not participas. ¿En qué participabas después de la escuela? What did you used to participate in after school? You're going to begin by saying de pequeño or de pequeña. Yo participaba in list your activities. Natación, béisbol, fútbol, niños exploradores, fútbol americano, basketball, teatro, banda, música, baile, ánimo, whatever extracurriculars. You can find those on pages 45 and 46 of the textbook. All right, and those are the 3rd and 4th questions to your project, your autobiographical presentation. We're essentially beginning the rough draft together in class. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the agenda for today. We just knocked out your warm-up. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Spanish Imperfect, which can be found on page 194 of the textbook. And there we have it, y'all. So last quarter we talked about the primary focus of last quarter was the preterite tense, if you recall. The preterite tense we looked at as being used to describe actions that are viewed as completed actions in the past, right? Things that you did earlier this morning, completed. We're reviewing them as already done. Things you did last night or over the weekend or last week even, last month or last year. Not looking at them as continuous, but rather as completed. That's the preterite, right? Ayer, Rafael patinó y Mónica corrió en el parque. Rafael skated and Monica ran in the park yesterday. And the key word there, key phrase being ayer, right? Imperfect, on the other hand, is used to talk about actions that happened repeatedly in the past. So that's a key difference between the preterite and the imperfect. Preterite is used for completed actions in the past, usually actions that happened only once, whereas the imperfect is used for repeated, habitual actions in the past. Rafael patinaba y Mónica corría, right? So when they were little, Rafael used to skate. Monica used to run, as opposed to skated and ran. Completed, used to skate, used to run, continuous or repeated in the past. There we have our AR endings for regular verbs, in the regular AR verbs rather, in the imperfect. Jugaba, jugabas, jugaba, jugábamos, and jugaban. Aba, abas, aba, abamos, and aban are your regular AR endings in the imperfect. Notice that the el, ella, and the yo forms are the same, and that there's an accent above the A in the nosotros form, that first A. ER and IR verbs share the same endings in the past, in the imperfect rather, and those endings are ia, ias, ia, íamos, and ian. Accents above the I for all conjugations, and the yo and el, ella, usted forms are also the same. We're going to do guided exercise page 195, exercise 14, where you guys are going to do two things. You're going to pick the verb that makes the most sense according to the context, and then conjugate it according to the subject. We'll do the first three together. So number one, or let's take a look at the instructions first. Margarita recuerda como de niña ella pasaba tiempo en la casa de sus abuelos. Escribe la forma apropiada del imperfecto de los verbos. So Margarita remembers as a little girl she used to spend, pasaba, used to spend time at the house of her grandparents' house. Write the appropriate form of the imperfect that's provided in parentheses, the verb provided in parentheses. So pick which of the two verbs makes the most sense according to the context, and then the verb you choose, conjugate in the imperfect. Number one, cuando era niña, mis hermanos y yo pasar tiempo en la casa or pensar tiempo en la casa. We're going to choose the verb pasar. Pasar is to spend. Pensar is to think. If we're talking about time, pasar tiempo makes more sense. Conjugated in the nosotros form would be pasábamos. Cuando era niña, mis hermanos y yo pasábamos tiempo en la casa de nuestros abuelos. Accent above that second A in pasábamos. Mi abuela preparaba or participaba galletas muy ricas. Or if galletas are cookies, it would make sense to use preparar, to say she used to make or used to prepare. Mi abuela preparaba galletas muy ricas y nosotros las comíamos en el patio. Comíamos because we're talking about eating them, right? They being las galletas. All right, so finish the rest of these 4 through 9, and then your homework, take a look at, that is workbook guided pages 137 and 138. You guys can click here to watch video instructions for that assignment. That is your only homework for next class, that in addition to continuing to work on your project.